Hey guys, you are watching and listening to the latest episode of K100 Sports. We will solely be previewing the NFL playoffs here, looking at the wildcard round, not the super wildcard round. That's not what it is anymore. Just the wildcard round. It's not super anymore. And I understand that the Australian Open tennis, the first Grand Slam of the year, will kick off tomorrow. We'll touch base with that next week. I'm going to do a full preview over on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. So if you want to listen to my futures preview over there, it will be available tomorrow. Here, I'm going to primarily focus on the wildcard round. And next week, when we just have those 4 games to look at, we will touch on the Australian Open. But of course, if you want to get all of my official plays, head over to lockbetting.com. The service has 139 months in a row of transparent and track profit. Never had a losing month. We've had losing weeks and losing days, obviously, but we've never had a losing month. And we've got there with sensible bankroll management. If you look through the spreadsheets, which are accessible over at lockbetting.com, they're accessible on the Instagram at lockbetting, you'll be able to see the type of bets we do, the sports we bet on, and most importantly, how we manage a bankroll. All of these spreadsheets are verified by existing members. So there is no doubt that everything is legit, and we really haven't ever had a losing month. We have made a profit for 11 and a half years every single month, and we're coming off an NFL regular season where we had 13 winning weeks. We didn't have the best start with our futures, but we've managed to turn that around during the season. We landed 2 futures at plus money on the Baltimore Ravens. One was almost 2-1 actually. 16-1, a 16-1 future on the Rams. And I took that when San Francisco were the heavy favourites. And early on, I picked up on the fact that something wasn't right with the 49ers. I didn't think we were getting all the information about McCaffrey. I thought the Rams had a very favourable schedule going into the second half of the season after their bye. And we took a shot and it came through at 16-1, as did the shot that we took on Tampa Bay, which came through at 5-1. We took an in-running total. We took an in-running play on the Bengals total, which was lowered down to 8.5. I thought they were still playing the top teams very close and it would be in playoff contention until the end, despite their poor start. Among a number of others that we added, and we navigated those futures into a position where we're now playing with house money. So we have pending futures, various pending futures, and if we just hit one of those futures, we've had a successful futures season. If we hit none of those futures overall, and I mean if we go 0-5, we will end up losing a unit across the season on our futures, but we've more than made up for that by having 13 winning weeks. In order for us to not have a single winning future, it would take a very dramatic turn of events. Let's just put it that way. If you look at the way the markets sit at the moment with who the favourites are on both sides, NFC and AFC, it would take a dramatic turn for us to actually lose money on futures at this point. So we're in a very good position. All-time, my futures record over at Lock Betting is 81%. And I've proven again why that is the case, because from a very, very deep hole, I've managed to navigate us into a very good position. And it'll all be on January spreadsheets. At the moment, you can see December spreadsheets. This December spreadsheet that is available over at Lock Betting, on lockbetting.com, and also on my X account at SGP Soccer. So let's move on with breaking down some of these playoff games. Now, as you guys will be familiar with, this has been the season of the favourites. So this has been the best ATS season from a profit and return on investment point of view since 2017. Overall, favourites in this 2024 regular season ended up going 195 versus 77 straight up, which is 71.7%, which is the third best season since 1980. But if we're looking at dogs here and dogs in the playoffs, since 2017, those dogs are 52 and 34 ATS for 61% for a 17% return on investment. And in the wildcard round, which we're covering here specifically, those playoff underdogs are 24 and 12 ATS, 67% for a 30% return on investment. So immediately, I do what the sharps do. I do what the what the experts do, the smart guys, shall we say, and I look for the underdogs. I look to go against the public because Vegas wasn't built off the back of the public winning money on a regular basis. It was built off the back of public losing money on a regular basis. So you always want to go and see what those wise guys, smart guys are thinking, those sharps. And usually they are aligned with the books. But this hasn't been the type of season where you've been able to get away with that because these so-called sharps and wise guys have been absolutely bashed. Whilst my handicapping personally starts at that point, I use that as a starting point. And that obviously historically that is the better way to go. I don't make that the be all and end all. And I think if you do, you're no expert. You're nothing special. You're not entitled to be charging anyone for picks or advice because there's a lot more to it than that. You have to look at each individual team. You have to look at each individual situation. You have to look at how teams run the ball, how teams throw the ball, how teams defend against the pass, how teams defend against the run, what the historical data is, what the coaches' data is in particular situations, home, away, playoffs. It all factors in. You cannot just leave it there and say simply, I'm going to go against the public, because the public have been winning this season. And there has to be a stepping off point where you move away from that and you start to assess individual games individually. So whereas a lot of the public, who I think have got wiser, by the way, but the general perception of the public is that they see something the following week, the previous week, and they ride that the following week. They just simply go along with what they've seen. Well, had you been doing that in college football with Ohio State, you would have been making a lot of money. We rode Ohio State yesterday. The sharp side was Texas. But I knew what I saw from Ohio State. And I believed no matter what the sharp bettors did, no matter where the public money was, looking at the way that team were playing, I was willing to ride them. And I'm talking about both sides of the ball. So the better cappers will individually look at every aspect. There's no blindly doing this. There's no blindly doing that. Just because it's a public season, you don't go into public and say, oh, it's a public season, I'm going to take all the favourites. No. At the same time, you don't go against the public. You don't go with the books blindly. As I said, historically, that is profitable and you can use that as a starting point. But that's all it is for me. It's a starting point. You still need to do the actual work. And I've done nothing but the work throughout this week. So I'm going to quickly run through these spreads. Obviously, me and Cav did a preview show together already. So some of this may just be saying the same stuff that I already said on the podcast, or some of this may be me changing my opinion based on newer information. So we start with the Texans hosting the Chargers, where the Texans are getting 3 points in most places. In some places, this is 2.5. But if it's a 2.5, it's a plus money 2.5, with Texans getting 2.5 at 21 to 20 plus 105. The total for this game is back up to 42. There was a 44 at the start of the week. That was bet all the way down to 41.5. I wish I had the 44 because I followed some bad advice. And I looked at the way the money was coming in on the totals, and every single game in this wildcard round, people are betting on the over. So I assumed the longer you waited, the bigger line you would get if you wanted to be an under better. And I do. I think that I can make a case for the under for all 6 of these games. But in this instance, despite the fact that all of the bets are coming in on all of the overs, this line went down, which kind of tells you what the books are expecting. And I'm expecting the same. But I'm not expecting the same outcome as a lot of people. A lot of people are on the Chargers. The Chargers are a very public side. A lot of these experts are also going with the Chargers on their podcast. They completely bought out of Stroud and this Texans team, and they don't believe in him. What I will say is the Texans played a very, very close game with the Bills. The Texans the Texans beat the Bills and played a very close game with the Lions. So this team can turn up on their day. They have been missing some key weapons throughout the season periodically. I'm talking about Nico Collins. And they've had problems this season running the ball. Stroud hasn't been as good as last year. He hasn't taken that next step. But ultimately, there is a version of Stroud who can win this game. There is a version of this Houston offense that can move the ball. They can run the ball. And the defense is the strongest unit on the field. I know technically or statistically you could say it's the Chargers, but the Chargers haven't beat anybody. They're 10-1 this season against teams that didn't make the playoffs. Aside from that, when the competition steps up, they tend to lose the game. And while I don't want to be insensitive, we cannot disregard the effects of the fires in Los Angeles that are happening right now. We saw the LA Clippers in the NBA. They got blown out by the Broncos. And before the game, all the talk was about the fires and how they were distracted by it and how it was difficult to play. Well, it showed because they got their back doors blown out. So there's no way that won't be affecting both the Chargers and the Rams as well to some degree, even though they are playing their game in Arizona. This one's played in Houston. So I imagine, I actually don't know this, but I imagine the Chargers have been there for a few days. I imagine they're not traveling today, but it doesn't matter when you travel, it doesn't matter when you did something. At the end of the day, your city is burning. Now, it's largely down to your governor, but your city is burning. And you've gone from mocking God at the Golden Globes on Monday to God setting your whole city on fire the next day. So if that's not karma, I don't know what is. But in this particular situation, there's a lot to like about the Texans for me. I think this team have underperformed this season, but it's been difficult to elevate yourselves when you've just known you were going to win a shitty division throughout the season. They've turned up in spots, which gives me hope. They are a home dog here in this spot. I'm not entirely convinced by the Chargers. And obviously we have the distraction of the fires. In addition to that, let's look at this other side of it from the aspect of a professional athlete. Now, the narrative on week 18 was that everybody wants to play you because you are the worst team. Everybody was saying, all of these pundits and commentators and so-called experts were saying, it's really important to be the 5 seed because you get to go to Houston. It's really important for the Steelers and the Chargers to win this weekend to ensure that they are the 5 seed and they get to go and win in Houston. You don't think these professional athletes saw that. You don't think they heard that. You don't think this may even be pinned up on the dressing room wall. So for me, I'm going to take the 3 points with the home underdog. I don't think the Chargers are this much better than the Texans to be a 3-point favourite on the road. And I'm going to take Houston +3 here for this one. Up next, you have the Ravens hosting the Steelers. The line for this has gone all over the place. As I'm recording, I'm seeing 8.5. I saw 9.5 earlier on in the day. It touched 10 yesterday. It opened up at 7.5 on Monday. So it has gone all over the place. What's interesting is that if you're a sharp bettor who grabbed the 7.5, but then also bought back on the 10, there are 2 margins of victory where you can win both sides. In fact, there's 3 margins of victory where you can win 1 and you can push on 10. So if you got the -7.5 and you got the 10, if the Ravens win by 8 or 9 points, you're winning both of your bets, which I don't think is an oversight by the books because the books usually set things correctly and there's obviously a lot of accounting that goes into this. But it is an odd situation that this one's moved around so much. The total has remained steady though, and we're looking at the over-under set at 44. This is a high total for these two, and I understand last time it went well over and the Ravens blew out the Steelers, and that should really happen again based on what we've seen. I'm just a little bit worried about postseason Lamar. Obviously, we know about Tomlin as an underdog, but we also know Tomlin has been dog shit in the playoffs in recent years. So there's a lot to factor in here. Ultimately, I think we could go back to a low-scoring game between these two. I'm more confident about a low-scoring game than I am taking those 9 points with the Steelers. Because for me, this could easily be a 24-10 game where the Ravens cover, win this by 2 touchdowns, and hold the Steelers to just 10 points or even less, because Russell Wilson has gone back to Denver Broncos Russell Wilson as opposed to Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson as the season has progressed. There's even talk about bringing Fields back in for this game. I don't think we'll see that, but there's a lot of unrest at the Steelers. They've looked very bad across their last 4 games. They've lost all of them, and I think it'll be a huge shock if the Ravens don't go through here. I expect them to cover. A way that you could potentially look to play this, now that it is down to 9, is to take the Ravens -3 and tease that total down to, or tease that total up to 50. So under 50 and Ravens -3 feels about right for me for that one. If I was going to be making a bet on it, whatever I do bet on, you'll find it over at lockbetting.com. You'll also find it at patreon.com/NFLpick6 if you're just looking for NFL picks. But they're just 3 picks from me, so they won't be. There's no totals there. I can tell you that now. There's no teasers over there. There's no props over there. All I've done is I have picked 3 spreads. So I don't know what Cav's going to do yet. He's yet to submit his picks as I'm recording, but I've just gone for 3 ATS picks over on that. So if you want to get my my bigger card for Wildcard Weekend, head over to lockbetting.com. So moving over to Sunday, the Bills are 8.5-point favourites against the Broncos. This is held pretty steady. The total, though, is moving up. It was 47. It's now 48. That makes sense because in recent weeks, this Denver Broncos defense that was very, very much praised has been lit up by the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Bengals. And they have definitely regressed. And you don't want to be in that situation when you're going up against Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen could have a big game here. Overall, just a spoiler, looking ahead, I don't give the rookie quarterbacks too much of a chance this weekend. And historically, that is right because, as I confirm this with my notes, I don't think I even need my notes here because I think I know what the stat is, but I will double check it just in case. Where are we? This is bad audio and a bad visual. Yeah, I can't find it. I can't find the stat for straight up rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs. I think it's 5-17. If I remember rightly, they are 5-17 straight up. I did not find the spread number, but the thing is, with these playoffs, if teams win, they tend to cover the spread as well. So if a favourite doesn't cover, usually the underdog has won the game. That's not 100%, but it is a huge stat and something that I will elaborate on over on Lock Betting when I do give out my official plays, because obviously I'm in a situation where people are paying me for picks and information and for the hard work that I do. So this is kind of just supposed to be a little tease, a little intro, almost like a little advertisement to head over to the actual Lock Betting site, because God knows I'm not making any money from YouTube. So I think here that the Denver Broncos will be just very happy that they have reached the playoffs. And the fact that they have been conceding points, a lot more points in recent weeks, or at least since November, points to the fact that I don't think they can keep up with the Bills here in this spot. Up next, we're looking at my Green Bay Packers traveling to the Eagles, where the line has now moved to -5, opened up at -3, and Sharps, Public, everybody is loving the Eagles. Packers are my team, even though I'm wearing a Ravens jersey, because for financial reasons, I'm more behind the Ravens. And this is really to appease my clientele, because they'll like the fact that I'm wearing this, because this links to what we need to happen in the futures markets this season. But we don't have much on we don't have anything on the Packers. It's just my team. But my team have played very poorly in the last 2 weeks. The status or the health of Jordan Love is not known. I don't think he's been right since the start of the season. I don't think he's been particularly great. Got injured week 1, came back too early, had a very poor game against the Vikings. Then he got better, stopped throwing interceptions every week. But in the last 2 weeks, I've not been impressed by what I've seen from Green Bay. But we still don't know the status of Hurt either on the Eagles side. So I think this will be a game where they rely on Saquon Barkley. I think that the Packers too will rely on Jacobs, and therefore that makes this total, the under for this game, very appealing as well, because running plays eats up the clock. 7-8 minute drives eat up the clock. So I think this could be low scoring, and I also think the Eagles could come out slow. Remember at the start of the season, it took a long time for the Eagles to score any points in the first quarter. The line for the first quarter here, for the first half, is set at 22.5 right now. In fact, I'm seeing some flat 23s as well for the first half total. You can also get Green Bay plus 3.5 points if you want to lay the juice, and you get plus money on +3 for Green Bay for the first half. So I can see Green Bay have been more effective at running the ball in the first half of games this season. That has been a definite thing that I've noticed. You see these stats coming up on the screen, talking about what a great game Jacobs is having in the first half. And then teams tend to figure us out. And the Eagles tend to be more dominant in the second half as well. So coming off the what was essentially a bye last week because the Eagles didn't play their full lineup, I can see some rust. This can go both ways. Some people like to bet on rest and freshness. Some people like to bet against rust. I think the Eagles may be a little rusty. I see a low scoring first half, and I think the Packers can cover the 3-point spread and be in the game going into the second half. As for the full spread, I don't want to touch it. Maybe there's a supporter in me, the supporter's bias, that doesn't really want to say that the Eagles are going to cover this. But I'm more aligned with the total and taking Green Bay to be in this in the first half or within a field goal. Up next, we look at the Bucks and the Commanders, where the Bucks are 3-point favourites. Nothing's changed for me here. The Commanders have definitely regressed as we've got to the second half of the season. Defensively, it's just too easy to put points on them. Daniels hasn't really been the same player either since he got injured, and you could say the same about Jordan Love as I did earlier. And we already did the stat about rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs. So I don't want to say too much about this one because there's a couple of plays in this game that I really like, which you can get over at lockbetting.com. But ATS, or just generally who I see being in the next round, I see the Bucks being in the next round, and I actually see them playing a rematch with the Eagles from last year, where the Eagles were embarrassed. Obviously, the Eagles' season fell apart after that good start, and it carried on through to the playoffs. But I can see them playing the Eagles, and I can see the Eagles getting revenge against the Bucks. Obviously, we have a lot of games to play before then, or we have 2 games to play before then. But I see the Bucks facing the Eagles. And the last game, it's a very intriguing one. It's the Rams and the Vikings, where the Rams are now getting 3 points. I liked them when they were just getting 2 points, but that wasn't when it was in Arizona. So they do now move across to Arizona to play this game on Monday night. And I still like the Rams. And it sounds contradictory because I just gave out an angle against the Chargers, who are also from LA. But I think that the Vikings will be mentally distraught after what happened last week. You were almost the 1 seed. You almost had home advantage throughout the playoffs. You were facing a Lions team where all through the week the narrative was about how their defense going to cope. They've lost too many defensive players. This is a real opportunity for the Vikings, and you went there and you put up 9 points. the worst version of Sam Darnold possible turned up at the worst time. And I don't see how he recovers from that. And I don't see how the Vikings recover from that either. And this is one of the, based on the way the Vikings play and based on the way that the Rams defense plays, and I'm going to write more about this over at Lock Betting again, this is stylistically a really poor matchup for the Vikings offense. So for those reasons, I'm still going to take the Rams here, and I'm not bothered about it being moved to Arizona. I'll take the 3 points here. I'm even tempted by the money line, which is available at 13-10 plus 130. So that's it for me, and what has been not a very quick NFL wildcard round preview. I've actually done 26 minutes, or at least I would have done by the time I sign off. As I said, if you want to get all of my official plays, head over to lockbetting.com. 139 months in a row of transparent and track profit, 13 winning weeks in the NFL, and 0 losing weeks historically ever in the NFL. Every season has been a winner, and we are en route to another winning season once again. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.